गाथा तो है नहीं,
वर्सेस गाथा का मतलब था वर्सेस।
है क्रिकेट बोलोगे? लाइव चैट आ गया।
यहाँ पे उसी तरह होता है और सपने थोड़ा सा
इवनिंग चैंटिंग यो सो भगवा अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो स्वाखतो येन भगवता धम्मो सुपटिपन्नो यस्य भगवतो सावक संगो तमयं भगवन्तं सधम्मं ससङ्गम् इमे हि सकारी यथा अर्हम् आरोपिते हि अभिपूजयामा साधुनो भगवा शुचिरपरिनिभूतोऽपि पश्चिमा जनतानुकम्पमानसा इमे सकारी दुर्गतपणकारभूता बुद्धो भगवा बुद्धं भगवन्तं अभिवादे स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो धम्मं नमस्सामि सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो संगं नमामि हन्तमयं बुद्धस्य भगवतो पुब्बभागनमकारं करोमसि नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्स हन्दमयं बुद्धानुसतिनयं करोमसि तं कोपन भगवन्तम् एवं कल्याणो कीर्तिसद्दो अभुगतो इति पिसो भगवा अरहं सम्मा सम्बुद्धो विद्याचरण संपन्नो सुगतो लोकविदु अनुत्तरो पुरुषधम्म रथि सत्था देव मनुस्सानं बुद्धो भगवाति हन्दमयं बुद्धाभिगीतिं करोमसि बुद्धवार हन्द वरता द्विगुणाभियुतो शुद्धाभियान करुणा हि समागततो बोधेसियो सुजनतं कमलं वसुरो वन्दामहं तमरणं शिरसा जिनेन्दम् बुद्धो यो सर्वपाणिनं शरणं खेममुत्तमम् पठमानुसतिष्ठानं वन्दामि तं शिरेणहम् बुद्धस्सास्मि दासीवा बुद्धो मे सामिकेश्वरो बुद्धास्साहं नियादेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्तीहं चरिष्यामि बुद्धस्येव सुबोधितं नत्थि मे शरणम् अन्यं बुद्धो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सच्चवच्चेन वड्डेयं सत्तु शासने बुद्धं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं पशुतं विद सब्बेऽपि अन्तराया मे माहेषुं तेजसा हन्दमयं धम्मानुसतिनयं करोमसि स्वाखातो भगवता धम्मो सन्दिट्ठिको अकालिको एहि पस्सिको ओपनयिको पच्चत्तं वेदितव्यो विन्यो हीति हन्दमयं धम्माभिगीतिं करोमसि स्वाखाततादिगुणयोगवसेन सेयो यो मग्गपाकपर्यतिविमोखभेदो सम्मोकुलोकपतना तदधारि धारी वन्दामहं तमरं वरधम्ममेतं धम्मो यो स सर्वपाणिनं शरणं किममुत्तमम् द्वितीयानुसतिष्ठान वन्दामि तं शिरेणहम् धम्मस्सास्मि दासीव धम्मो मे सामिकीसरो धम्मसहं नियादेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्ति यं चरिष्यामि धम्मस्यैव सुधम्मतं नत्ति मे शरणम् अन्यं धम्मो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सत्यवज्रेण वड्ढेयं सत्तु शासने धम्मं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं प्रसुतम् इद सभ्येऽपि अन्तराया मे माहेषुं तस्य तेजसा हान्दमयं सङ्घानुसतिनयं करोमसि सुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसङ्घो उजुपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसङ्घो न्यायपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसङ्घो सामीचिपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावकसङ्घो यदिदं चत्तारि पुरुषयोगा अष्टपुरुषपुद्गला एष भगवतो सावकसङ्घो आहुनेयो पाहुने दक्षिणेयो अञ्जलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यखितं लोकसाति हन्दमयं सङ्गाभिगीतिं करोमसि सधम्मजो सुपटिपत्तिगुणाधियुतो यो अष्टविधो आर्यपुङ्गलसङ्घसेठो शीलादिधम्मपवराशयकायचेतो वन्दामहं तमर्यागणं सुशुद्धं सङ्घो यो सर्वपाणिनं शरणं किममुत्तमम् ततीयानुसतिष्ठान वन्दामि तं शिरेणहम् सङ्घस्सास्मि दासीव सङ्घो मे सामिकीसरो सङ्घस्सहं नियादेमि शरीरं जीवितं चिदं वन्दन्ति यं चरिष्यामि सङ्घस्सुपटिपन्नतं नत्ति मे शरणम् अन्यत् सङ्घो मे शरणं वरम् एतेन सज्जवज्रेण वड्ढेयं सत्तु शासने सङ्घं मे वन्दमानाय यं पुण्यं प्रसुतम् इद सभ्येऽपि अन्तरायामि माहेषुं तस्य तेजसा
अब हम अपनी चांटिंग पुस्तिका से एक शुभ रात्रि की गाथा और उससे अगला पेज धम्म गौरव गाथा दोनों चैंट करेंगे।
अत गाथायो भणामसे। आए हम एक शुभ रात्रि की गाथाओं का पाठ करें। अतीतं नावागमेय न पटिकंखे अनागतं, यदतीतं पहीननतं अपतंच अनागतम्। अतीत को याद न करें, न भविष्य की आकांक्षा करें। अतीत का प्रहाण हो चुका है, भविष्य अभी नहीं आया है। पच्युपन्नंच यो धम्मं तत्तथ विपස්සति, असंहिरं असंकुप्पं तं विद्धाम अनुभ्रूहये। जो स्थिति वर्तमान में है उसे वैसे ही स्पष्ट देखें। स्थिर अक्षुब्ध रहते हुए प्रतिवेदन को विकसित करें, अंतर्दृष्टि को। अज्य एव किच्चम आतप्पम कूजन्या मरणं सुवे, नहि नो संगरनतेन महासेनेना मच्चुना। आज ही तप करें, कौन जाने कल मृत्यु हो जाए। मृत्यु की महान सेना से कोई सौदा नहीं हो सकता। एवं विहारिम आतपिम अहोरत्तम अतंदितम, तम विभद्द एक रतोति संतो आचिखते मुनि। इस प्रकार दिन रात निरंतर अतंद्रिल रहते हुए तपरत रहना, वह एक शुभ रात्रि है। शांत मुनिवर ने यह सिखाया। धम्म गौरव गाथा। हंदमयम धम्म गौरव गाथा, गौरव आदि गाथायो भणामसे। आए हम धम्म के गौरव की आदि गाथा का पाठ करें। ये च अतीता संबुद्धा, ये च बुद्धा अनागता, यो च इतरहि संबुद्धो बहुन्नं शोकनाशनो। जो भी अतीत में संबुद्ध हुए और जो भविष्य में होंगे, जो भी इस समय संबुद्ध हैं, सभी शोक नाशक हैं। सब्बे सधम्म गरुणो विहरन् सुविहरन्ति च, अथोपि विहरिष्यन्ति एषा बुद्धा न धम्मता। वे सभी सद्धम्म को गौरव देते हैं, जो भूतकाल में थे अथवा वर्तमान में है या भविष्य में होंगे। यह बुद्धों का स्वभाव है, जो सभी भूत में भी बौद्ध हुए होंगे ना, भूतवर्त। तस्माहि अत्त कामेन महत्तम अभिकंखता, सधम्मो गरुकातब्बो सरम बुद्धान शासनम। इसलिए अपनी कामनाओं, महान आकांक्षाओं की पूर्ति के लिए बुद्धों की शिक्षा को याद कर सधर्म का गौरव करना चाहिए। अब अपनी कामनाएं तो हमारी सांसारिक कामनाएं होती हैं,
शुभकामनाएं,
धर्म संबंधित कामनाएं। नहीं धम्मो अधम्मो च उभो सम विपाकिनो, अधम्मो निरयं नीति, धम्मो पापेति सुगतिं। धर्म और अधर्म का एक जैसा फल नहीं होता। अधर्म निरय लोक की ओर ले जाता है और धर्म सदगति की ओर। सुखति धम्मचारिं धम्मो सुचिनो सुखम आवहाति ऐसा निसंसो धम्मे सुचिणे। धर्म धर्मचारियों की रक्षा करता है, धर्म पालन सुख देता है। यह धर्म पालन का आशीर्वाद है।
Now listen to Desana by Mr. Rodney Smith on Chaitanya third Desana, called Personal and Impersonal.
Connected to 1+3G. Connected to 1+3G.
In which the Buddha's instructions are very clear and very simple. Simply to notice states of mind, regardless of whether they're present or changing or absent, and just being aware of the passing movement of these states without any attempt to try to alter or change them at all. Now that is an extraordinarily difficult practice. Okay? It's so simple. And all the instructions up until this point have been pointing towards leaving ourselves completely alone. But when we get in there and we actually sit down and we start watching the phenomena of mind, we want to tinker. We don't necessarily like what's going on. We aren't particularly pleased at its momentary display. We would prefer this state rather than that state. And this state has no spiritual implication. This state is what I would have if I were a worldly thief. And so the implications of each state have a very personal label to them. And so it's because of that personalization of each state of mind that we have a reaction to it, and it doesn't fit our particular image that we are participating in that moment we are watching the state of mind. If we think we're spiritual and it's a non-spiritual state, then it throws us off, et cetera, et cetera. So this last talk, up until this time, we have been looking at different states and noticing how each state divides us out in reaction to it, creating a division through a particular theme and attitude that state brings up, in a particular history that encompasses us within that state, and a memory that surrounds us, and then a locked-in relationship to life through a particular state, be it worry, be it fear, be it desire, whatever. And so we've looked at a whole number of states of mind, noticing how we are drawn out of that state of mind by various and sundry reasons, and that often there is a pain association, a pain body associated with why it is that we draw ourselves out and why it is that we hold on to that state. So this particular talk tonight, since it's our last one of this theme, looks at the evolution of going from the personal to the impersonal. That is, the evolution of being strongly identified with each display of the mind as representing who we are and what we are about, to being able to see in a very light and conditioned way that these things are just manifestations that really don't represent us at all. So that movement from a very personal implication of mind to an impersonal implication of mind is really the evolution of meditation itself, is it not? And it's very disturbing to begin to see how this evolves, because somewhere along the way our buttons get pushed. We either want to have a personal representation and a personal relationship to our mind and yet be in control of it, or we'd like to get rid of the whole darn thing and be completely out of it altogether. And we are somewhere along that line, and many of us are attempting to bring forth that intentionality into our practice, and that has implications on how we practice and what it is that we get out of practice, which I'll go into a little later. But let's remember that this particular third foundation the initial talk was about how the sense of me and the mind are not two different things. The sense of I is a mental process in and of itself. That somehow the sense of I gets misrepresented by the mind to think that it's outside of the mind having a mental experience, when actually it is a mental phenomenon. Many of us are attempting to bring forth that intentionality into our practice, and that has implications on how we practice and what it is that we get out of practice, which I'll go into a little later. But let's remember that this particular third foundation the initial talk was about how the sense of me and the mind are not two different things. The sense of I is a mental process in and of itself. That somehow the sense of I gets misrepresented by the mind to think that it's outside of the mind having a mental experience, when actually it is a mental phenomenon. And therefore, as a mental phenomena, should be studied within this third foundation, which is the study of mental phenomena. And what does it say to do with every mental phenomena? Oh, it's just this. Don't do anything about it. So that means we are not to do anything about ourselves. Now it really gets personal. So let's look for a moment to see how it is that we get lost within this spatial representation of self and mind state. And just to come back to the second foundation, as I like to just review briefly our way up to the third, through the third. And that is that every experience has a conditioned feeling tone, a pleasant or unpleasant or neutral tone associated with it that we have imparted to that experience. It's conditioned within us by our history. And so when a particular state of mind arises, it too has a feeling tone. We have an appreciation for it or a displeasure to it or no particular feeling at all about it. And if it's an encouraging tone, that is one that we've a state of mind, one that we have a long history with and a lot of pleasure around, then very quickly, as that state gets a feeling of pleasure associated with it, comes the memory associated with that particular state of mind. And the circumstances from which it arises, the conditioned circumstances externally, defines what that mind state will be as it arises, and then our feeling tone about it is the embellishment we give that arising once it has occurred. That arising of our state of mind and the history and memory we have associated with it gives us a tremendous feeling of three-dimensionality. Like, I've been here before, I know what this is all about, I have had a history with this particular object, and this state of mind is comfortable, and it's just like a home that you've been in for your whole life, and you put your feet up on the coffee table and you have a complete relaxed response to it. And it has a sense of everything being known within it. And so states of mind themselves have that context, have that connotation. And we then begin to associate ourselves with certain states of mind that have that pleasant representation, and we, of course, want to dissociate ourselves from those which do not. It's the sense, though, that the memory has kicked in. And when the memory kicks in, there's a very strong personalization of that process. It's like there's a very strong sense of I being connected to that particular state, and a very strong implication of that state for the sense of I and for the I's image of him or herself. And so this very, very concrete and almost tangible feeling of me coming up as a state of mind arises. And just pick one of your most pleasurable states of mind or one of your least pleasurable ones, and you can just by bringing it or recalling it to consciousness, you'll feel immediately its personal implication for you. Now, that personal implication is part of the reaction of mind to itself, as I mentioned. It's not something separate. There's no me outside that's now having a relationship to this experience. It's the mind having a relationship to itself. And as we become wiser in meditation, we no longer take sides within that experience to pit one thing against the other. The sense of self against the state of mind. I don't like this. How do I get out of it? I need to get through this. This is awful. And the whole laboring tone that an unpleasant state of mind could be. And so when we get wiser in our meditation, we create less of a rift, less of a harshness, less of a reactivity between the sense of I, which is arising within the mind, and the state of mind, which is also arising. And that relationship becomes quieter, not as noisy, because all of this has been embellished by a strong narrative of I, me, and mind, has it not? And when there's a strong narrative, there's a strong representation, as I mentioned, a strong personalization of everything that's going on. And this embodied narrative is what kind of locks in and freezes the whole thing into its representative form. So this sense of I, as we become quieter and whatever state of mind is rising, the Buddha is telling us or giving us the instruction not to do anything about it. You don't do anything about the state of mind that's arising, and you don't do anything about the I that's having that state of mind. So you just quiet with each one. There's just the awareness of both of those rising together. That sense of not taking sides or pitting one side against the other creates a wholeness of mind, a completion of mind. Now, that completion of mind is not another state of mind having a sense of completion about those two fractured parts of mind. That would just be fracturing out a third thing, wouldn't it? No, this completion is the awareness, is the space that holds both halves. So we infuse less energy into the I, or less energy into the state of mind and the reaction we have to that, And that energy becomes a part of the awareness, the space that holds both of those contentious parts. And there is a greater sense of wholeness of mind, a greater sense of awareness of each of those things occurring within mind, but no sides being taken to either one. When you reach this point in the evolution of practice, it is the first time perhaps that you feel true love. Always before, the I has been trying to love the other side of the issue, which is just a recoiling reaction to not liking it at all. And so it tries to offset or counterset the unpleasant feelings it really has in its truth about this state of mind by bringing out love to it. And that's really further division and further acrimony in relationship to those two. It's trying to appease it by talking to it. But wholeness of mind is appeasement through stillness, through non-reactivity. It's not by cantankerous speaking or creating a new narrative that tries to seal the two halves together. It's by releasing the need to do anything about either side. And then there is a feeling of the wholeness of consciousness. That wholeness of consciousness embraces both. It's not coming from you. It is not induced by you, but is very tangible in its effect. And you feel absolutely no sense of either personalization for what's occurring or that you need to do anything about it. Nor do you feel that you need to squash out the ego that may be arising in relationship to that very response. Both are just immaterial workings of the mind that are being seen by the whole within the whole context of the space that holds it. So the Buddha is pointing a path and a journey towards that end. That's what these foundations are meant to do. And this foundation provides the key element to being able to do just that. As I mentioned, he's saying, see each state as just this. It's just this. He's trying to take the narrative out of the state of mind. He's not trying to have us talk nicely to it. When you see something as just this, that's an impersonal presentation. It's not just this that means something about me. It's just this, period. It's just this. And we can start seeing ourselves and seeing our mind with, oh, it's just this. It's just this. It's just anger. It's just fear. It's just worry. And the next step, because see the narrative, what the narrative does when we get locked in the discourse between the two halves is it tries to work its way out of what it sees through further communication, through further talking, through further noise about what it sees. It tries to tell a story, a richer story, a further story in the future about how I have to settle this problem that seems to be that I'm facing now. So it future speaks. I need to go sit. That's future speaking. Right? I have all this anger. I need to go sit. That's the sense of I imparting a conversation to the other side of the mind, trying to work out a way so that I no longer have to feel anger. And I don't mean to say that there's anything wrong with that. That's an evolution of understanding as well. But we're trying to bring this current. We're trying to see what the Buddha is really saying for us to do in our meditation practice. This has implications for each one of us. You can't rush this process, obviously. To rush it is absurd, because to rush it is to say, I don't like where it is now. I need it to be somewhere else. You see, there's nothing you can do about it, because everything you're doing about it is further incites the state of mind further, doesn't it? Or you can say, all right, I've got it figured out now, right? I'll just detach from it. I'll turn my back, I'll step back a few steps. I'll have some distance to it. And you're doing that because you're aversive to it and you want distance from it. And the fractional mind distances itself. And it can. You can turn, and if you're really good at it, you can see it almost like you're looking at the wrong end of binoculars at it. And you can get into some psychotic state where you have disassociated completely from yourself. You can go that far back. I wouldn't advise that. That's sending yourself in the opposite direction of the reality that's present in here. So what can we do? You see, if there was something to do, I would have long since found it. Because believe me, who wants to do nothing? Right? When you do nothing, that's the worst, isn't it? That's the worst, because and so I've looked everywhere. And yet there's nothing to do. You'll find teachers that can promote doing, and there are skillful means that are always available for us to work to level the reactive playing field so that we can then, after the skillful means, do nothing. But most of us get lost within those skillful means and never come around to doing nothing because it feels so good to do something skillfully to it. And so the doing nothing of this is, I just want to give it a moment of true recognition of how difficult it is. This is hard stuff. Not only is it hard doing nothing, but when you do nothing, you begin to fade from the picture. When you absolutely do nothing, not try to do nothing, because trying to do nothing keeps you very much in the picture. But when you really do nothing, in other words, there's no movement at all to do anything, then that is what I call surrender. When every cell is at ease with itself. And that then is the end of anything being made into something. I know these words. I know we can tie ourselves into all kinds of knots with words. Okay? But I'm going to do it. When you do something, whatever you do it to, you make it into something by your doing. Because you project onto that thing, that state of mind, whatever reaction you're having to it. And you're bringing fear response to that neutral thing called a state of mind. And then from your projection onto that neutral thing called the state of mind, you have to do something about it when you're the one that created the problem to begin with. So we create the problem and try to work out the fix. But we try to work out the fix by keeping ourselves in the picture. By keeping ourselves in the picture is the fix that we have to work out. Now, have I got you in a complete knot? So over time, the personal gets worked out, gets worked through, gets worn away like granite, water touching granite. It's not usually a speedy process because along the way, and why it takes often as long as it seems to take, is because we try everything before we try surrender. And so we're during the course of all of our meditations, we are often providing one strategy after another to do something about the sense of I, forgetting that the sense of I is even existing because we're doing something about the state of mind. And we keep forgetting that over and over again. and we keep personalizing what is occurring over and over again. And anytime you personalize what it is that's occurring, the narrative about what you're saying is occurring is getting longer, deeper, and more impactful and more intense. This isn't just Buddhism. This is life. This is the way we live. Understand it. I don't care if you're Hindu, Christian, or whatever it is. This is the problem at hand. This isn't the Buddha method. I don't have to deal with the sense of self if I'm Christian. That's nonsense. That's nonsense. What you think, if you just go into a pleasant place called heaven, that you will have solved that riddle of pursuing pleasure and creating yourself in the midst of that, and that heaven won't be just an experience, another experience you're having that happens to be very pleasurable? It solves nothing. It doesn't solve the problem at all. It just gives us a pleasant place to dwell. This is at the root. This is at the root. That's why few people are interested in it. They would rather pursue the strategy that feels most accessible to them, and that's the one which allows more pleasure. And what's better than that than hoping for heaven? But when you have learned, the limitation of any feeling state or any feeling tone, it's like, who cares really? I have had states in meditation that are so sublime, if I had had them earlier on, I probably would still be in them. But I had them when I was ripe enough in my wisdom that is like, so what? It sounds uncaring somehow, but it's not uncaring. In fact, the temptation to lean into those states can only happen in the lack of caring. When you really care, then you don't care what's arising. If you do care what's arising, you don't really care. I told you I was tying you in knots. So this willingness to say just this, let's just look what we do. See, when we're sitting in meditation and things are arising, it's just this, it's just this. We're actually deconditioning the narrative out of the state of mind. We're not talking so much about it or to it. We're not reacting. It's just quieter. You see, there's not as much going on, not as much babble. I got this reminds me of when all of that. After a while, it's like, so what's happening is that it's becoming impersonal. Very strong sense of narrative, very strong sense of personal representation and implication about me. That's why we talk about it a lot. That's why we try to do something about it. Is that it says this is who I am. But as we begin, just through the repetition of seeing, as I see again and again what that state is, and that it really is just arising, and it just arises from conditions. Who are we going to blame for it? And we've seen enough states of mind over the course of all the times we have practiced where we say, okay, so it's this one, this one, this one. It's like a file cabinet where they're just kind of, doesn't really matter really. And so we start deconditioning the narrative, the story, out of the state of mind. So the state of mind becomes quieter. We're not talking as much about it, or having to talk as much to it. And so as it gets quieter, the distance between it and the sense of self decreases. Because I'm not resisting it as much. And there comes a point when there's just stillness, and the state of mind no longer holds what the narrative said it held, and so it becomes quiet along with the sense of self. And then there's just stillness.
हमेशा दो ही तो नहीं हो सकता। वरना मेरे को नहीं कि लोगों ने क्या क्या लिख दिया इसमें भी, क्या लिख दिया हेलो क्या क्या उल्टा सीधा लिख दिया।
So how do you end the state of mind? By ending your narrative to it. And the narrative to it is also why and what holds you apart from it. And so the true acceptance or the bridging of that is through the stillness in which the two halves come together. It's actually very beautiful. I may not have said it beautifully, but it's just so, sometimes you know something by its sheer beauty, and that certainly has it. So how does it, first of all, we have to become disillusioned by the states of mind and our relationship to them. We have to, the particular way that we have been working with ourselves in the chatter narrative of keeping things at bay, we have to become disillusioned to that. We have to become disillusioned with the personal. We have to see that the personal is never going to really allow us to bridge the differences. And this is where it gets sticky. This is where it gets difficult, because our whole life, remember, each state of mind represents a kind of home. In each of our homes, there have been moments in which we have, that is not the home we wanted. There's a lot of argument and whatever. And also there are times when it is the most comfortable place to be. And all of that together is what we call home. Well, that's all together, that's what we call our reaction and our patterns to the states of mind. Some are good, some are bad, but we can deal with it, Now we have to change homes. And that's a tremendously unsettling feeling, to realize that this is going to mean shifting paradigms. Right? So it's difficult. But we also realize and are compelled by the fact that if we don't shift paradigms, that life will continuously move in the direction of this kind of reactive discourse, detachment, reaction, all of the different ways that we try at odds with ourselves to try to come to some kind of common peace. And so this sense of willing to be quiet is the strategy that arises for us. The willingness to be quiet. That's why quiet isn't something we have a strong attraction to. We don't like quiet at all. Look what happens when you have a moment or two of quiet. You quite likely, if you're like most people, turn on a radio.